Okay, here's an interesting news story that's up out of the Black Sea region, and where we're at here is a little civilization known as Nebelivka. And Nebelivka is up here pretty much just above Moldavia and Romania, east of Poland, south of Belarus, there it is, and this is the Black Sea down here towards the bottom. I'm going to show you a few pictures of artifacts and things from this culture, and then we'll get into the article. I want to show you a few things that are somewhat important to it. They found this Trypillian mega site while trying to do farming, and due to over the top of it, looking down, you could tell there was something that was in here. Now, this site actually encompasses a huge area, though, and we'll talk about that in a minute and how large that it covers. Here is a small look at its coverage and how huge it is. Walls and encampments, a little moat kind of thing that's built around the outside of it, and huge megastructures they haven't even gotten to over here that are all built into it also, which may be a secondary city. One of the things I want to show you are these depictions of their temples and religious huts that they had. And if you remember my Icelandic video I just showed about the pre-Proto-Amerindians, and I showed you the huts that look kind of like this with skins, and then they have whale bones and things making these up. Now this is of course made of wood, but why would they make it look like that necessarily? Well, there's a strange thing to that, but we'll get to that in a second. And look at this long tunnel that's built out of arches. It'd go all the way down this whole thing. Now, some of the other structures they found actually have square pointed roofs like we have on houses today, and not rounded roofs. But these religious ones, and especially the little symbols that they have of it right here, show you that they have this look to it. It almost looks like a Viking longhouse, right? You've seen this exact same appearance. I don't know if anybody's watched the show My Tree House, where the guy builds tree houses for people, but he did one just like this out of a tree house, or it had the facade or facing that had a thing like this, and it's something that's known to be very Icelandic, yeah, very Nordic type of buildings that they used to do, and you see that through there, and you see that through all of Siberia and over to the other side, and we looked at it just recently on the other video. Here's one other look down on the site that they're scouring through there. So you can see that built in. 6,000-year-old mega temple site. And they're saying that these people had two-story houses, very much like this, in a large portion of the area, 6,000 years ago. Mud and wood plastered walls, right? Colored plaster even, different than the normal plaster, so they put coloration into it. They built these lookouts. Was this where they could walk out and throw trash out into here? Well, they need to get digging for the trash piles. That's where they find a lot of important information. And they have these rounder holes which are letting in sunlight, and has something to do with sun worship and things too, and these ports that are here. Now, one of the buildings is depicted like this, and they're saying that its end point was around 4000 BC. And if you'll look, they have a symbol which looks like the Crete bull symbol that we're very familiar with, the Minoans and their bull cult culture, and the stanza on top. So that's just one thing that shows you another connection, but I'm going to make a few connections in this video here real quick for you. And again, a look at another structure. Get in on that a little bit. So you can see this huge balcony area that they have out here, 2 stories tall. Huge, made out of trees, lumber. Crisscrosses at the top and they tie in together. One thing, very few evidences have been found of it, but they know that it used to be that way, that people would come into a forest and chop down certain trees and keep certain trees, and they would leave those certain trees if they were in the right spots to help make houses. And in times they would take and bend over the limbs to another tree and then attach it to it, and bend another tree the other way and attach it to it, and make primordial housing way back when, perhaps before something like this, and pottery and the use of a lot of clays and things like that too. So something that looked a little bit more primordial. Anyhow, as we go through some of these things, we're going to see these same artifacts here done and showed to us in a little bit, but I wanted to mention something about them first. Here we see a Venus figurine. You can see she's got that fat ass going on with the Venus figurines that are always so familiar with that female of heaven, and you can see these statues that have this pressed face on them that I've shown you from a few cultures from this area. An oddity they figured out in these is that a lot of them don't have an eye that goes all the way through, and the other one does, and it seems to be misshapen. And one eye is done very well and the other one is not. And they believe some of these it didn't penetrate all the way through, but erosion has helped to make that happen. And that this may have something to do with that one-eyed God type of theory, by the way. And these have that bird effigy, that owl look, right? And a winking owl type of look, if you will. Kind of interesting here. This was meant to be stabbed into the ground. People have made stupid comments that this is the first butt plug. Things like that, yeah. Yeah, you'll get all kinds of weird things out of people. I'm sure somebody's about to tell you that this is from space somehow, but here's some Trypillian culture. That's what this is. Cucteni and Trypillian culture, and I've showed you a lot of pictures recently of a lot of these. Here's that bull getting pulled along again, so you can see these connections. And they have some of these vases that are real neat, like double connected and quadruple connected up here. And then there's always these symbolic ones that they found a few of now that are three connected together. And it kind of, gives you that idea. Giant spoons here that they'd had. And in the art styles, you can see a lot of weird things. And here's that Queen of Heaven type effigy that's quite prevalent everywhere in the swirled pattern, and this proto swastika pattern, if you will, that looks very much like it. A lot of these are very much intricate, though, really dug in well. And pairs of people, male and female, in a love seat. Yeah, this early love seat type thing. It's kind of neat, all the stuff that they show you that they've found from these cultures, and amazing that it's been left alone for so long. A lot of these effigies of birds. There's even effigies of rabbits, what would look like a pig, perhaps a donkey here, dogs, maybe. And is this also? Yeah, Trypillian culture. And so you can see these people, they're giving an idea of what they may have looked like in these Proto-Europeans, the light hair and everything going on. When we talked about them having that European genetics here just recently, and you can see these faces. And I'm about to do another one about masks and face masks, and you can see that effigy here and this look of these people. And then sometimes they have this squish, just push out a nose. It's the beginnings of good art, though, isn't it? So let's continue. I'll show you a few more things here. Again, here are more of those house structures. That's the same one. Here's another one. Almost looks like a birdhouse, doesn't it? Yeah, it quite well does. Hint, hint. And we look at these, and I tell you a connection I'm going to make a few times here real quick is there's that hut. There's that hut. Isn't that neat? That neat little hut and little stanzas on top of the sticks. Anybody else notice anything out of place on this artifact? A little bit. The Ying and Yang, drawn perpetual and correct. And its swirl symbology, 6,000 years old, Ukraine, Proto-Indo-Europeans, people that made it all the way up into China and Asia. Yeah. What else can we find here that I can show you more of? There's another one. swastikas on the side. I don't believe that's the same one. The stanzas look, it may be the same one. Well, it could be the same one. We're going to go with that. Here's the way the backs of the structures look. And you can see how they kind of have this closed over with skins effect almost, leading to a little opening, letting the place breathe. And again, the cattle toppers that are on there show you something that looks very bull symbology going on with it. Yeah, very neat. See if I can find a few more correlations here, and then we'll get into the recent little article. Because this culture seems to blend down and turn into what we know in the Sumerians as the erotic culture. And then that erotic culture seems to have started off the Ubaid and a few cultures that are down there that end up, making Proto-Sumerians and beginning to go off of that. So we're starting to make full attachment here. Let's see. Here's some other interesting art that they have found from there in these nice intricate bowls. We'll just call it snake bowl. And if you look, it kind of has that yin and yang symbology. This is the yin and yang, but then the dots are drawn out here, not on here and there. But there it is again. Let's see. A lot of people may have seen this bowl. It's kind of famous for its beautiful color and just its look. Thing is, you can find this same design in a lot of places, and this definitely looks like some type of early Sanskrit type of letters, but we're not going there in this video so much. What about that? That's kind of odd. Water symbols, and then a heartland. That's kind of neat. Let's see. Here's some more artifacts from there. That's a terrible picture. It's not going to blow up well. So, oddly, they find that there's connections between the Yang Shao and the Cucteni cultures somewhat. But they've also found a worked slab of rock there. A cracked slab of rock. What else can we find that's from there? Well, here's another bowl, and it's rim drawn around the edge with little lines, and then on the inside it's little crosshatches things. People have said this is maybe leaves. There's a bunch of different things it could be, but that kind of shows you what the bowl is for, and maybe this is something they had lettuce with or something. Sure doesn't look like corn necessarily. I had somebody say corn. You're like, dude, you're continents away from corn at this point. But later, you might be able to say that now. Show you something else from these artifacts here that they've shown is these gold ringlets that I'm going to talk about later, and they don't show them in the article, so this is neat. And these, your hair goes around, you braid your hair in thin cornrow beads and beads and attach it to it, and it's believed there's also a bead that would maybe be below this, or they would bend that gold very ending there and pinch you just a hair, and it won't let it slide down off your hair. Other artifacts of note or something like this, right? And I don't think that's from there. Apologize. Dismiss that photograph. Here was another one that was from there, though. One side of the earring has a jewel in one side, the other has a cluster of 3, like grapes, if you will, and so on, with beads around it. What's neat about this is that they made the ring. So this is an earring, a set of earrings, and it would look like you had a bunch of earrings attached to one earring. And what they've done is made claw, and then a little barrel tube. Put that in there. It fits to it, and then you can almost tell here they've melted gold to seal them together and then polished it back down, which is real neat, but not the most outstanding thing that there is out of it. It's a lot more standouts. Let's see if I can show you a few more out of the pictures I was looking through here. Here's an interesting one, and this shows you their observatory that they found at Nebelivka, and it's in the Kirovorgrad region of Ukraine, 6,000 years ago. Let me botch that name for you real quick. I don't feel good unless I've botched a couple of names in a video. I don't feel like I'm going far enough out of my comfort zone unless I really destroy a few names, people. So she has the 4 seasons on her belly. Yeah. And this is Venus. And so you can see this, what they call Karkak temple that's there. And this Karkak temple would have had pillars all built up inside of it, and it's a long, huge, multi-hooked up temple, which may have started out at this point and then grown and grown and grown and so on. And they're looking into dating on this, and I definitely am going to get more and more info on this. And once a real good article comes out, I will do more about it. I don't know if you remember whenever I did the other video about this, but here's the way their houses kind of looked. Looks pretty modern, squared off, ledging systems and stuff, a hammock, you know, pier and beam type stuff. This, if I told you this was an old southwestern, western cowboy house and stuff, you'd probably agree with that. And yet it's 6,000 years old and found up in the Ukraine. And here's another picture, recreation they've got of it right here. What is this little hut thing? Is this a dog house? Is this? Look at that. Well, no, it's a hearth. They burn stuff in here, and the heat comes out of there, and so they have an inner house heating going on with the cooking possible. Yeah, I don't know. Tell you what, you just quit cooking in that, and the dog will take that over in a heartbeat. Here's another image of a small, of a small depiction of the way one of the houses would look, but it's like a diorama, but professionally made. And how they did these walls. Now this is neat, is they put these sticks all in here and drove them into the ground and so on, and the floor is totally made out of wood, and then they plastered the floor, so you have a solid floor off the ground, not a dirt floor. Isn't that amazing? But then also they wove like wicker all around through here. Yeah, this wicker around the walls, and then they plastered that with mud and clay and stuff. Neat as hell. 2-story setups, food bowls set up out of the way. Yeah, kind of neat. Also shown that they had tattoos, things like that. Oh, where's that other picture at? Let me go down through here. Pardon me for flashing by pictures. Here's a good one. This is a depiction they give of the wall that was around this thing, Trypillian habitat. 30-foot tall wall with cubby holes all through it. You see the size of a person that's here. And habitats that are up here again with that effigy on the very top of every single one. You know, they don't, when they're making models, they don't have to put it on there. They put it on there. They definitely did. Again, I just have to mention how there's been a lot of gorgeous archaeologists working in the field here lately. Makes me wonder what's going on, because they weren't around for okay, so let's very few, let's just say that way. And so again, we can start looking into the origins of the Proto-Indo-Europeans and all of their connective works. And look at this Thunderbird. You see that, right? You see that. So I'm making some connections here. Let me try one more time with a couple more. I know I've shown you a lot of these pictures before in some other videos. I'm just going to touch upon them a little more. Venus. And this is a swastika buckle that they had made. This is a bracelet. You can see there this idea and these cultures. And if we look at this is exactly like that dove or bird that is the oldest swastika ever found, that's made on mammoth bones from way back in the day. In fact, I'll see if, I think there's a picture of that around here somewhere if I can get a look at it. And again, there's some Venus figurines right here. Trypillian or Cucteni culture, and that's just named for the place they find them in the original spot. It shouldn't be named for what they really were, you know, because that's not really who they were. That's what we call them now because of where the first little culture was found. And where can I find this? Ooh, that might be my opening shot right there. So here's some neat stuff here. This is a double burnery type effect looking thing, you know, very gorgeous pottery work. And again, a different Venus, but also with that same 4 seasons on her stomach, right? And other views of these swirled Venuses and her swirly buttocks. You see this? Yeah? Kind of neat. Up at her head, too. It's a flat little bitty head with 4 little holes in it they could attach and put things onto it. And here's one of those dual vases that hook up together. I think these actually had to do with giving sacrifice and the imbibing and so on that you would do to these, and they are connected and the gods are connected. Some of this pottery is just outstandingly gorgeous, though, at 6000 BC. And in weird shapes. And and what for? Because, definitely because. And so, where's that other one? Yeah, okay, let's see if we can find some more connections to Proto-Indo-European and people that went to Asia and all those things, because we're over here through this area in the Ukraine, and you find a lot of this connective here. But when you look at it, and you find Ying Yang symbols that are 7,000 years ago or 5,000 BC dated on that one piece we were looking at, and on this piece here, which might date a little older, and you know that this is Caucasians, and here it is on a bowl again, but it doesn't have the dots, but you can see it, almost like a swastika concept, right? Just makes you wonder about all the connections, and I think I've made enough connections to where you can realize where I've gone with this. Now, this is supposedly before writing and so on, and remember how the Greeks used to use double flutes? They played 2 flutes at one time. Yeah, and you can see a queen being protected by a goddess that has rays coming off her head. And if I told you this was the first Statue of Liberty effigy found, you might be able to see that. And so, well, there's another swastika, but that isn't attached to this culture that's here. So, yeah, I mean, some gorgeous artwork and some connections that I've made. So, I mean, what are these connected double vases? And it's a triple here on this one, and they're fixing to talk one about like this here. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and go to it. There's a couple more pictures I wanted to show you, but let's just go ahead and go to this. Archaeologists find a 6,000-year-old temple in the Ukraine. The remains of 2-story temples also contain fragments of human-like figurines and sacrificed animal bones. And here's the pictures which I showed you, and of course Venus and the butt plug thing on it or whatever. And yeah, it's terrible. You can tell these guys that are out in the field a little too long sometimes. 6,000-year-old temple holding human-like figurines and sacrificed animal remains has been discovered within a massive prehistoric settlement in the Yukon. Built before writing was invented, the temple is about 60 by 20 meters or 197 by 66 feet. This is the temple, not the surrounding place. That's the temple. It is a 2-story building made of wood and clay surrounded by a galleried courtyard. The upper floor divided into 5 rooms. This is written by archaeologists Natalia Burdo and Mikhailo Videyko. Ooh. In a copy of a presentation they recently gave at the European Association of Archaeologists annual meeting in Istanbul, Turkey. Inside the temple, archaeologists found the remains of 8 clay platforms, which may have been used as altars, the find suggested. A platform on the upper floor contains numerous burnt bones of a lamb. So sacrifice and charred and burnt bones. And of course, people back then, you would, with the smell of rotting meat around you and things, might attract things. Of course, cooking meat might do it too, but that's a different smell and not something that an animal would be used to. And if we burn up the remains so they don't cause any problems, then it just turns into a carbonized type thing. So it serves a dual purpose to do things like this. But to give away what you have, if you have an abundance to God, is a great thing. Right? It shows you you're giving back to the world that gives to you. And it started from that. So the floors and walls have those 5 rooms, and they were decorated by red paint, as created a ceremonial atmosphere with their symbolic red ochre. I think we're quite familiar with that, stretching from Egypt up through Greek Minoans all the other cultures using this symbolic color for forever, that Adamic red type color. The ground floor contains 7 additional platforms and a courtyard riddled with animal bones and pottery fragments, the researchers found. The temple, which was first detected in 2009, is located in a prehistoric settlement near modern-day Nebelivka. Recent research using geophysical survey indicates the prehistoric settlement is 238 hectares or 588 acres in size, almost twice the size of the modern-day National Mall in Washington, D.C. I'm not sure why they use that for a reference, but okay. I think we can get the idea. Maybe she must have been to that giant mall before. It contained more than 1,200 buildings and nearly 50 streets, so this is not just a small little thing. And here we have a city before Sumeria, right? And I tell you, these people lead down, they also lead off. Yeah, there's a lot of these people that bleed out from this. A number of other prehistoric sites of similar size have been found in Ukraine and other parts of Eastern Europe. These sites are sometimes referred to as belonging to the Trypillian culture, a modern-day name. The name is derived from the village of Trypillian, Ukraine, where artifacts of this ancient culture were first discovered, and wouldn't have been necessarily the true nomenclature or name that these people should have. Archaeologists found that when this prehistoric settlement was abandoned, its structures, including the newly discovered temple, were burnt down, something that commonly occurred at other Trypillian culture sites too. People wonder if they got burnt out or if they burnt out whenever they left. And it looks like they left a lot of their pottery. They would only take a certain amount with them, what they could take. And of course they knew they could probably make more pottery, but it's amazing what they left. It makes you wonder what they took with them. Ornaments and figurines, though. Fragments of figurines, some of which look similar to humans, were also found at the temple. Like findings at other Trypillian sites, some of the figurines have noses that look like beaks and eyes that are dissimilar, one being slightly larger than the other, and that winking owl look. Ornaments are made of bone and gold were also discovered at the temple. The gold ornaments are less than an inch in size and may have been worn in the hair, researchers say, and that's those twizzles I was showing you, those little tornadoes. At the time, the prehistoric settlement near Belivka flourished. Other early urban centers were being developed in the Middle East. And the newly discovered prehistoric temple is similar in some ways to temples from the 5th and 4th millennia BC that were built by the ancient Middle East cities, such as those of Anatolia and in Mesopotamia, Burdo and Vatico. Note, and hope you're paying attention. For example, a 6,000-year-old temple at the ancient city of Eridu in modern-day Iraq also had a floor partitioned into smaller rooms that are very similar to this exact same thing, they note. The discovery was also recently published in Ukrainian in the Journal of Tyragedia. Another paper reporting on recent research at the settlement was published recently online in the Journal of Antiquity, and I'm going there right after this, but that's probably a read through and not something that you want me to read to you, because they generally aren't written like this, and they're written in a bunch of lawyer speak almost, where you have to pick through it and then think about what the hell they said, why they don't just come out. No, these people, these scientists, like to go through these long nomenclatures, and it's something that you have to get used to. But again, an incredible find, and yeah, these people that had this similar look, these Venus statues, and these things that go way, way back, and you can see how it carries on to a much more modern time, as they showed right there directly. There are a lot of connections that can be made from this culture into a lot of other cultures. It at first made people wanted to try to say that there was something to do with the Lords of Arata, but the Lords of Arata were said to have just been north, where we might almost agree that the Akkadians showed up later in intent, but in that fact, where did they come from 2,000 years before that, ish? And you can see a common culture blend that's going through these. I don't know if you look at it here, but these giant eyeballs and a beak, this is an owl type face type thing, but no, it's just a simple symbology. But soon we're going to go into a lot more of artifacts that connect these together, as I've been doing here recently with the Proto-Indo-Europeans that we're looking at and their similar pottery. Now that we're able to get a little bit of DNA information that goes along with this type of thing, we're able to tell a whole lot more with genetics than we used to just off of pottery and trying to connect people by pottery. And then you have people trying to measure craniums of any skull they can find and try to make connections. And you can see the variance in human beings as it is slightly. So a lot of conjecture, but if you can pull one tooth out of that guy and get some DNA out of it, it's amazing what you all of a sudden figure out. It's like all of a sudden throwing that ace out there and making it work. And ancient linguistics, but we'll go, these are linguistics of these R1A and R1B people that start out as a proto-linguistics that nobody can really quite decipher at this point, but shortly after this, they do. And I think you can tell here by the stalks and things that are shown in a lot of this that it has to do with plants and wheat and a triangle and a bird and a pyramid and angle down, angle up, and here's a man with his arms up, or a bird again. Ideas of being not centered but off on 3 instead of 4. Here it is in reverse or upside down, and that means something different. And a lot of connections to things, and 1, 2, 3, 4, counting out meaning more of something, like you see in the Egyptians where it just puts 3 dots next to something and that means plural, and things along that line too. Ancient linguistics, though, are kind of difficult. They definitely didn't have any vowels that they like to use, as seen in Canaanite and Proto-Hebrew and Hebrew languages. It generally was always only consonants. So again, like, share, and subscribe, guys, and enjoy. We'll carry this on, but yeah, swastika here, right? Swastika here. Giant, beautiful houses made by a culture that looked like this 6,000 BC. Peace.